I always encourage others to celebrate the small victories in their daily lives. For example, just getting out of bed, mustering up the energy to exercise, showering, going to a doctor's appointment, basically anything that challenges us or our bipolar disorder. It's easy to get so caught up in the daily challenges of living with mental illness that we can lose sight of how much we've grown. I resonate with that. I feel stagnant sometimes, where progress feels agonizingly slow. However, if I take a moment and look back 6 months or 6 years, I've passed some huge milestones. Today, I'd like to explore 7 of them with you, 7 milestones that were turning points in my life. I know some of you are new to all of this, and some of you are veterans of the bipolar journey. Maybe you have a loved one living in denial. Regardless of where you're at, I hope this video helps inspire and encourages you to keep moving forward, to keep growing. Things really can and do get better for a lot of us. It just takes time. My first milestone is a big one. This would be the first time I asked for help. The first time I asked for help with my mental health was in my 20s, after several hospitalizations. My life was falling apart and I was desperate. I wish I didn't wait until I was in serious trouble to ask for help, but I wasn't ready. I was too stubborn and prideful. I was running chains of karate schools at the time and thought I could use mind over matter to solve my problems. Asking for help can make people feel uneasy because it requires surrendering control to someone else. Some of us may feel ashamed of our situation and don't want to come across as needy or weak. New research from Stanford found that even children as young as 7 can feel this way. Another study pointed out only 27% of Americans ask for guidance before they start something new. It took some years, but eventually I asked for help and really meant it. That was a big turning point in my life. This next important milestone ties in with the first one. This would be the first time I opened up to a therapist. Did you know that 47% of Americans believe that seeking therapy is a sign of weakness? Think about that. Almost half the population. In an article published by Forbes, the people who aren't in therapy said it's because they don't think their problems are big enough or that they can handle their problems on their own. Now, I'm no stranger to therapy. My parents had me in counseling as a child, all the way up through high school. Here's the thing though, I hated it. I despised going. In no way did I want a stranger knowing about my problems because I thought I could handle them on my own. It wasn't until my 30s when things got so bad, like rock bottom bad, that I was finally ready to open up to someone. I had to do it on my terms though. I couldn't be coerced into going. I would just waste everyone's time. Once I was ready, I had to open up. I had to let someone in. Therapy changed my life. It accelerated my ability to grow beyond anything I'd imagined. My next big milestone was when I finally found a treatment that worked for me. Before I get into this one, please know that I'm not trying to convince anyone to take medication. I'm simply going to share some of my experience with meds and why they were a part of this milestone. When I was around 20 years old, my most notable symptom was depression. I went to the doctor and said, "Hey doc, I'm depressed." So not realizing I had bipolar disorder, he put me on a typical antidepressant. Well, the medication sent me into a manic state, which eventually resulted in hospitalization. I had to go through this cycle more than once before doctors started mentioning the word bipolar. Eventually, I was diagnosed and put on the appropriate meds. That's far from the complete story, but my journey to diagnosis started with being misdiagnosed and prescribed the wrong meds. Had this not happened, it would have taken doctors longer to figure out what was going on. It wasn't a pleasant experience, but it was super important to me finding the proper treatment. I had to figure out what didn't work before I found out what did. The fourth milestone I want to talk about is when my relationship to the illness changed. When I was first diagnosed, I saw bipolar as this inconvenient, stigmatized, horrible thorn in my side. Now I see it as a manageable illness, similar to living with diabetes. Sometimes I even see it as an advantage. It took me years to get from point A to point B, though. I had to build up trust in the treatment process. I had to read books by authors that lived with it. I had to connect with other peers who have successfully navigated through the hard times. It's the combination of many things that changed my relationship to the illness. Now I see bipolar as just another part of who I am. That's it. My fifth milestone is a huge one and a work in progress. It's when I stopped blaming my suffering on someone or something and started being able to state where I'm at with my mood. In the past, I would get ill and think there was something very wrong with my relationship, my job, or my living situation. I'd say horrible things to the people I cared about, quit my job or end a relationship. Now I can say things like, I'm hypomanic, or I'm experiencing dysphoric mania. I can say I'm unwell right now instead of F off to my partner, boss, or friends. Bipolar creates this intense fight or flight feeling, and it always made me feel better to find a reason for the nasty feelings, to assign blame for them. Now that I have a name for these emotions, I can share how I'm feeling instead of blaming someone or something for them. It's made a big difference. This next milestone was hard for me. It was the first time I started to forgive myself. Getting diagnosed with bipolar triggers a grieving process for many of us. I could look back on a lifetime of lost jobs, relationships, and opportunities related to my illness. First, I was in denial about it. Then I was angry. I tried bargaining. I went through deep waves of depression too. Finally, I arrived at some level of acceptance. Basically, the 5 classic stages of grief. Forgiving myself came after processing through the grief, and it was really hard for me. Still is. I have much regret to process after 43 years of living with bipolar. Lots of things I said or did that I wish I could take back. My therapist has been instrumental in helping me find some peace through self-forgiveness. In forgiving myself, I let the past remain in the past so I can be the person I'm meant to be right now. The last milestone I want to share today is the first time I started setting boundaries with others. I'm such a people pleaser that I have a hard time saying no. I'm a giver, which can draw the attention of takers. In the past, I wouldn't say anything until it was too late. I'd let subtle resentment build up over time until I exploded at someone. I've learned that communicating my boundaries sooner and in a calm and kind way are best. I've also learned the importance of not over-explaining myself. If I'm making a request, I try to be specific so everyone knows what they're agreeing to. I can't make people respect my boundaries, but I can always control how I respond. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, 7 important milestones. I'm eager to hear your feedback in the comments. Maybe let me know which of these milestones you've reached, or perhaps share one of your own. Also, if you have any questions for me or are looking for some extra support, there's a link in the video description where you can reach me anytime through Patreon. Take extra good care of yourselves, and I'll be back here soon with more Polar Warrior videos. Stay well.